The aroma of seared steak wafted through the dimly lit restaurant as servers in crisp uniforms darted between tables. It was a bustling Friday evening at Louie's Kitchen, an upscale eatery known for its rustic charm and exquisite menu. A new sign glimmered outside, freshly painted with bold cursive letters that read, "Louie's under new ownership." Patrons whispered about the mysterious buyer who had taken over just weeks ago, but no one seemed to know who it was. Before we start, hit the like and subscribe buttons for more updates. At the entrance, a man walked in, his stride relaxed and his face partially obscured by a red baseball cap emblazoned with the words, "Make America Great Again." He removed his sunglasses, revealing piercing blue eyes that, to many, might have seemed oddly familiar. Dressed casually in a leather jacket and jeans, the man quietly approached the host stand, his hands tucked into his pockets. The hostess, a young woman named Emily, glanced up with a polite smile that faltered when she noticed the hat. "I'm sorry, sir," Emily said, her tone cool but firm. "We have a policy against offensive attire. You'll need to remove the hat or leave." The man raised an eyebrow, clearly amused but not confrontational. "Offensive? I didn't realize hats had that much power," he replied, his voice deep and measured with a hint of humor. Emily, now slightly flustered, stood her ground. "We aim to provide a comfortable environment for all our patrons, and political statements like that can make people uncomfortable. It's best if you leave." Nearby diners began to notice the exchange, their conversations fading into hushed murmurs. Some shot disapproving glances at the man, while others seemed intrigued by the confrontation. The man sighed, removing his cap and running a hand through his graying hair. Instead of leaving, however, he leaned casually against the host stand. "Funny thing," he said, his lips curling into a half smile. "I was hoping to enjoy dinner at my own restaurant tonight." Emily blinked, confused. "Your restaurant? I think there's been a mistake. This is Louie's Kitchen." "That's right," the man said, his tone still calm but with an edge of authority. "And I'm Louie. Well, not Louie, but the guy who owns it now." A stunned silence fell over the room as the man revealed his identity. Mel Gibson, the legendary actor and filmmaker, stood before them. The realization hit Emily like a freight train, her face flushing with a mix of embarrassment and disbelief. She had just kicked out her boss. Mel chuckled softly at her reaction, his gaze warm but direct. "Relax," he said. "I'm not here to fire anyone. Let's just say I was doing some mystery shopping." The tension in the room eased slightly, though whispers still buzzed among the diners. Some pulled out their phones, discreetly snapping photos of the unexpected celebrity. Mel, unfazed by the attention, turned to Emily. "So tell me," he said, his voice laced with curiosity, "who decided this hat was offensive?" Emily hesitated, her hands fiddling nervously with the edge of the host stand. "It's a general policy," she explained, trying to steady her voice. "The previous owner wanted to avoid conflicts, and we've been told to enforce it." Mel nodded thoughtfully, his expression unreadable. "I see. And how often do you have to enforce it?" "Not often," Emily admitted. "But when we do, it usually avoids bigger issues." Mel considered this for a moment before gesturing toward an empty corner booth. "Mind if I sit down? I'd still like to have dinner, hat or no hat." Emily quickly signaled for a server, who escorted Mel to the booth with a mix of awe and trepidation. As Mel settled in, the restaurant's manager, a wiry man named Carl, hurried over, clearly frazzled. "Mr. Gibson," Carl began, his voice slightly strained, "I wasn't expecting you tonight. Is everything okay?" Mel smiled, waving off the concern. "Everything's fine. Just getting a feel for the place. Nice vibe, by the way. A bit uptight on the dress code, but otherwise solid." Carl chuckled nervously, not sure whether Mel was joking or serious. "We aim for professionalism," he said, "but of course we can revisit the policies if you'd like." Mel leaned back in his seat, studying Carl for a moment. "Let's put a pin in that. For now, how about a steak, medium rare, and a whiskey neat?" "Of course," Carl said, snapping his fingers at a passing server. "Right away." As Carl retreated to oversee the order, Mel glanced around the restaurant, taking in the details. The exposed brick walls, ambient lighting, and polished hardwood floors exuded a warm sophistication. It was clear the previous owner had poured effort into creating an inviting atmosphere, and Mel appreciated the craftsmanship. Yet there was something sterile about the place, a sense that it was trying too hard to please everyone. His whiskey arrived first, and Mel sipped it slowly, savoring the smoky flavor. He noticed a fefew diners still sneaking glances at him, their curiosity palpable. He flashed a quick smile at one table, where a young couple nearly knocked over their water glasses in surprise. It amused him how fame had a way of disarming people, even in the most mundane settings. By the time his steak arrived, the restaurant was beginning to settle back into its usual rhythm. The initial shock of his presence had faded, replaced by an undercurrent of excitement. Mel cut into the steak, the meat tender and perfectly cooked. He made a mental note to commend the kitchen staff later. As he ate, a middle-aged man approached his table, clearly nervous but determined. "Mr. Gibson," the man said, his voice wavering, "I just wanted to say I'm a big fan of your work. Braveheart is one of my all-time favorite films." Mel looked up, his expression warm. "Thanks. I appreciate that. It means a lot." The man hesitated, glancing at the empty chair across from Mel. "Do you mind if I sit for a moment? I promise I won't take up too much of your time." Mel gestured for him to sit, and the man eagerly complied. "So," Mel said, leaning forward slightly, "what brings you to Louis tonight?" The man laughed nervously. "Date night with my wife. She's over there, completely starstruck, by the way. I had to come over and say something. I hope I'm not bothering you." "Not at all," Mel said. "It's nice to meet someone who appreciates a good story." They chatted briefly, the conversation flowing naturally despite the man's initial nerves. When he finally returned to his table, his wife beamed at him, clearly impressed. Mel couldn't help but smile at the exchange. Moments like these reminded him of the connection he had with his audience, a bond that transcended screens and scripts. As the evening wore on, Mel called for the check, but Carl hurried over, insisting the meal was on the house. "Consider it a welcome gesture," Carl said, his smile overly eager. Mel shook his head, pulling out his wallet. "I appreciate the offer, but I prefer to pay my way. Besides, it's good for business." Carl reluctantly accepted the payment, and Mel left a generous tip for the server. As he stood to leave, he put the MAGA hat back on, eliciting a few raised eyebrows from nearby diners. He paused near the host stand, where Emily was still stationed, looking as though she wanted to disappear. "Emily," Mel said, his tone kind but firm. "You handled that situation the best way you knew how, and I respect that. But moving forward, let's focus on welcoming people rather than excluding them." "Deal?" Emily nodded quickly, her relief evident. "Deal. Thank you, Mr. Gibson." "Call me Mel," he said with a wink before heading out into the night. The story of Mel Gibson's unexpected visit spread like wildfire. Social media buzzed with posts and photos from diners who had been there, each one eager to share their version of the encounter. The tale took on a life of its own, with some praising Mel's down-to-earth demeanor and others debating the implications of his hat. The news of Mel Gibson's visit to Louis' Kitchen didn't just stay confined to the patrons who were lucky enough to witness the moment firsthand. Within hours, blogs, entertainment sites, and even local news outlets picked up the story. Headlines ranged from sensationalist, "Mel Gibson's MAGA hat shocker," to lighthearted, "Mel Gibson saves steakhouse from bland policies." No matter the slant, the attention was magnetic. Louis' Kitchen was suddenly more than just a restaurant. It was a cultural flashpoint. For Mel, the explosion of attention was a double-edged sword. He had long been a figure whose presence in the media sparked debate, and while the restaurant's sudden popularity pleased him, he had never been one to seek out unnecessary drama. Over the next few weeks, his focus shifted to ensuring Louis' Kitchen could handle the influx of new customers. That meant being hands-on, a role he embraced with surprising enthusiasm. On an early Monday morning before the restaurant opened, Mel arrived unannounced once again. This time, he wore a simple t-shirt and jeans, his head uncovered. The staff, now accustomed to his unpredictability, greeted him with a mix of awe and casual respect. He gathered everyone in the dining area, pulling out a chair and sitting among them rather than towering over them at the front. "All right," he began, his voice calm but commanding. "I've been watching how things run around here, and I have to say, I like what I see, but there's room for improvement." The staff exchanged nervous glances, unsure of what was coming. "First," he continued, "I want everyone to understand something important. This place isn't about me, and it's not about any one person. It's about creating an experience. The food is just part of that. The atmosphere, the service, the little touches, those are what make people come back. So we need to nail all of it. He paused, letting his words sink in before offering a rare, reassuring smile. And you're all doing a damn good job. I just want to see if we can make it even better. Mel's approach to leadership surprised many of the employees. Despite his larger-than-life persona, he proved to be approachable and attentive. Over the next several days, he worked closely with the team, learning the nuances of restaurant management. He spent hours in the kitchen with the chefs, tasting dishes and offering suggestions. He observed servers as they interacted with customers, occasionally stepping in to offer a tip or two on reading a table's mood. Perhaps most strikingly, Mel didn't shy away from getting his hands dirty. One evening, when the dishwasher called in sick, he donned an apron and joined the kitchen staff, scrubbing plates and loading trays. Word of his humility spread quickly, further endearing him to the team. For Mel, it wasn't about making a show of his efforts. It was about understanding every aspect of the business he now owned. Meanwhile, the public's fascination with Louis' Kitchen continued to grow. Reservations became increasingly difficult to secure, with tables booked weeks in advance. Celebrities began to make appearances, adding to the restaurant's allure. Paparazzi lingered outside, hoping to catch a glimpse of Mel or any other high-profile guest. Despite the chaos, the staff adapted admirably, buoyed by Mel's encouragement and the excitement of being part of something special. But not everyone was thrilled with the restaurant's new direction. A handful of regular patrons who had enjoyed the quiet elegance of Louis' before its transformation found the spotlight off-putting. Some grumbled about the long waits for a table or the occasional disruption caused by paparazzi. Mel, always keenly aware of public perception, took their concerns seriously. One evening, he hosted a private dinner for some of these disgruntled regulars, hoping to address their concerns directly. The gathering was intimate, held in the restaurant's newly renovated private dining room. Over wine and a specially curated menu, Mel listened as the guests voiced their frustrations. "I understand where you're coming from," he said after they had finished speaking. "Change can be unsettling, especially when it feels like something you love is being taken away. But my goal isn't to erase what made this place special. It's to build on it. I want Louis to be a place where everyone feels at home, whether you're a first-time diner or someone who's been coming here for years." His sincerity struck a chord, and by the end of the evening, even the most skeptical guests admitted they were impressed by his dedication. The dinner marked a turning point, and Mel made it a point to continue engaging with the restaurant's loyal patrons, ensuring they felt valued amid the whirlwind of new attention. Behind the scenes, Mel's involvement extended beyond the day-to-day operations. He began brainstorming ways to give back to the community, using Louis' Kitchen as a platform for positive change. He partnered with local farmers and suppliers, emphasizing sustainable and ethically sourced ingredients. He also initiated a program to provide culinary training for underprivileged youth, offering them a chance to build careers in the restaurant industry. One particularly memorable night saw the restaurant hosting a charity gala to support this initiative. The event was a resounding success, with Hollywood stars and local luminaries mingling in the warmly lit dining room. Mel, ever the storyteller, took to the stage midway through the evening to share his vision for Louis' Kitchen and its role in the community. His speech was met with thunderous applause, solidifying the restaurant's reputation as more than just a place to eat. It was now a symbol of hope and generosity. As the months passed, Louis' Kitchen continued to evolve. The menu underwent subtle refinements, blending classic favorites with innovative new dishes inspired by Mel's travels. The decor was refreshed, striking a balance between modern sophistication and the rustic charm that had always defined the space. The staff, too, grew more confident and cohesive, their camaraderie reflecting the positive energy Mel had brought to the establishment. Yet despite the restaurant's undeniable success, Mel remained mindful of the fleeting nature of fame and fortune. One evening, as he sat in his usual corner booth, he reflected on the journey that had brought him here. Owning a restaurant had never been part of his grand plan, but in many ways, it felt like a natural extension of his life's work. Just as he had poured his heart into creating memorable films, he now poured it into crafting an unforgettable dining experience. The thought made him smile. Life, he realized, had a funny way of surprising you. What had begun as a chance encounter, a clash over a hat, had blossomed into something far greater. Louis' Kitchen was no longer just a restaurant. It was a story. And like any good story, it had the power to inspire, to connect, and to bring people together. On the anniversary of his takeover, Mel hosted a special celebration at the restaurant. The evening was a reflection of everything Louis' Kitchen had become, a vibrant, welcoming space where people from all walks of life could gather to share a meal and make memories. As the night drew to a close, Mel stood once again in the center of the dining room, raising a glass to the staff and patrons who had made it all possible. "To Louis," he said, his voice filled with gratitude, "and to all of you. Here's to the stories we've shared and the ones we've yet to write." If you liked this video, please give it a like and subscribe to our channel. Also, could you leave your comments below and tell us, what are your thoughts on Mel Gibson being kicked out of his own restaurant? We want to hear from you. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.